have my paints all ready to go, and so let's get started. Victoria, did you get the email with the painting that was sent to you?
I did.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna start by wetting the paints in the pan in my spray bottle and putting some water in my palette. And I'm going to take my flat brush, dip it in the water, get the bristles wet, and wet the paper. So we will be doing the sky. And I'm starting to wet the paper at the top, and I'm going to work all the way down to the end. All right. And you will need to dip your brush into the water maybe a couple times, do as needed. So now my paper is wet, and you don't want to have major puddles, but you want it just wet enough that it soaks into the paper. Now with the sky, I will be using the mop brush, and I will be starting darker on the top to lighter to the bottom. So I'm getting my mop brush wet. And starting with the intense blue. Starting at the top. Need a little more paint versus water there. And I'm going back and forth a couple times so the paint will soak into the paper along with the water. It takes a couple minutes for it to kind of really soak into the paper. So now I'm happy with that. We'll be adding the next color, which will be red. I'm re-wetting my brush and adding some red. And I'm starting above where the blue was. Colors run. Victoria, am I going at a good speed for you? Not too fast or too slow?
No, this is great. Perfect speed.
Okay. And again, I'm going back and forth, letting the paint have time to soak into the color. You might find that it will pool where the kind of puddle up where the tape is, and you can just take your brush and kind of soak it so it doesn't do that, and push down on the tape because it will tend to lift up. And you also might find your paper will dry before you get to where you want it to. So I'm just cleaning my brush here a little bit and re-wetting where I want it to. Sometimes it's hard to predict how fast or how slow the paper will dry. So now we have red. Now we're going to add orange for the next layer, which is the next lighter color. Need more paint on my brush. Again, you want to go back and forth. Give it time to soak in. And I'm going above where the red is so the colors can kind of blend. And sometimes the colors will naturally kind of blend and mix on your paper. Or if you want a kind of different color, you can mix the color in your palette. Now mine is running up here a little bit. I'm just going to kind of dab it to stop it from running. So the last color we're going to use is a yellow, which is the lightest color. And I'm seeing my paper is drying rather quickly, so I'm going to clean my brush out a little bit and re-wet the paper. And that's the thing about watercolor paper is you can reactivate it by wetting it. So that's good. Now I'm going to add some yellow. And watercolor always dries lighter than what's on the paper. And I'm just going to take it all the way to the bottom. Then we have a nice, pretty rainbow sky. So in some ways, watercolor paper is flexible. You know, it's you kind of have to experiment with it and kind of work the paint and water, the paint with the water into the paper. So now I'm going to sit and let it dry, and this is when the hair dryer comes in handy. Because a lot of times if you don't let the paint set or dry completely and you go back on it, if I was to go back on this and put paint on it, it would spread. And there's some instances where you don't want it to spread. So the next step when I did this painting was to dry it with a hair dryer just for the sake of time so I can go to the next step. So I have my hair dryer here, and I'm not going to do on high, do it on low. And you don't want to do it right on top, just 2 to 4 inches. And if it's too close, you might see that it moves the paint. If that's the case, you just want to lift it up higher and not put it so close. I'm going to stop doing that. So I'm going to sit here and take my time to dry my my sky. So far, does all that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to dry a little more, and when I'm done, I'll start talking then. It's kind of hard to talk over the hair dryer. I'm just going along the edges and pressing down on the tape. Sometimes with the water, it will lift up. Okay. Now we will work on the trees. So I'm going to make some trees further in the background, and then one big tree on the left here. And so, and then making the landscape, the horizon line a little above the yellow, like that. So you want to take your round with pointed tip brush. We'll be using that one to start with. Get it wet. And use some of your, I'm going to use my green here. Now there's kind of to me that looks like a mistake. And if you see something you don't like, you can cover it up with a darker layer. And that's what I'm doing right here. So I'm going to make a few trees off on the distance here, and this will dry lighter. Make them continue. Now I'll start with the big tree using the same color. And when doing my trees, I like to start at the top. So I'm going to make mine start about right here. And if you want, you can even draw a line and then go back to the top and flare it out on each side. Need more paint to my brush. Making mine more rounder. The bottom of the tree. Okay. So how's everyone doing?
We're a little behind. We're still working on the big
Okay.
tree.
That's good to know. Good to know. The camera just shut off, but we're resetting that.
There it is.
Okay. So on my tree line here, I will be adding a little bit more of the tree line on the other side of the tree, and you can do that with yours. So what's nice with watercolor is, and then if you have your dryer, because once you have the basic outline of your trees, you can go ahead and do another session of drawing on that part of your painting. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, now I'm ready to add the second layer on my trees. Are you doing okay there, Victoria? Oh, if you want to unmute, Victoria, can you? I just want to ask if you're ready to go on to the second layer of trees.
Yeah, sorry, we just finished blow drying. I couldn't hear you over the blow
Oh,
dry.
that's okay, not a problem. So to make the second layer of green, we're going to take the green that you have and add some of the burnt umber. And that will make it another shade. And I'm doing a little mixture here on my palette. And if you want to take your little piece of paper towel to check the color, you can, like that. And I see that it's darker. And I'm going to put a little darker branches here below the trees here. So there looks like there's depth and gives it a look of depth when you're looking off to the field. And mix a little more paint. Need more paint. I'm not going to go all the way across, just a little bit right here, this group of trees. Now I'm going to go to the big tree and start at the top and put some of the next color and just alternating it dark on one side and go to the other side and do it sporadically. So it looks like it's a shadow. Need more paint. And if some of the edges seem sharp, you can wet your brush. Like I think these edges look a little sharp. I'm just basically adding water to my brush and kind of smearing the paint so there's not such a sharp line. So I'm just going to the areas and softening the line by re-wetting the paint, and that will activate the paint to make it more workable. Okay. And a little bit the dark color on this side of groupings of trees. Like that. Now I'm going to give it another quick dry. I didn't dry that completely, and that's okay. But I think we can go ahead work on the white. So the white part here is what we're going to be working on next. That's around the trees. So I think sometimes when you look at snow, it doesn't always look completely white in areas because of shadows and stuff like that. So are you ready to try doing the white part of the painting, Victoria?
We are.
Okay. So go ahead and wet your white paint. And I'm not mixing it with any color. And I'm going to go ahead and start putting it on below the trees here. White has not been used, so sometimes you have to kind of work it to get it workable. And I'm going to go behind the trees here, and part of it's a little bit wet, and I'm going to let the paint run. That's okay. It's going to give it a little color. Now, when the white is wet, it's going to look like you can't see it, but when it dries, it's just kind of a subtle look on it. And we thought about when we did this about adding snow and flakes, but it would take more time. And if you want to, you can always go to my videos one that talks about adding snow and doing snow on a painting. It's if you go to our video number 9, it's the winter snowscape that shows how to do it. And when I look at snow, there's sometimes shadows. So I'm going to take my white here. I'm going to clean my yellow out of my palette here and put some of the white and add a touch of blue to the white. Just a touch of blue. Do that some more. And it'll show up a little more. And it kind of gives it a glazed look to me. Here I added more blue, so it looks like the trees here are going to cast a shadow. And I'm going to add a touch of red. Be a little more of a purple. And again, if it's too strong, you can just dilute it by cleaning your brush a little bit and adding some water and spreading it. So now I'm going to do the same thing where the big tree is. Get some white, touch of the blue, some here, and a touch of the red. To give a cast of a shadow of the tree. And maybe one for the ones here. Seem a little strong, so I'm just going to take some of the white here and add it on the edges and spread it out. And what's nice with watercolor is you can kind of make subtle changes or looks on it, and I think that's what makes watercolor so neat. And also it's good to step back when you're painting. I find when I am painting, sometimes I'm so much like this, it's hard to see the whole picture. So sometimes just take a minute and lean back and look at it. Because I find I myself get critical because I'm like right here at the painting, and it's, well, if I hold the painting or step back and look at it, it doesn't look so bad, or something doesn't that I thought was so bad doesn't catch my eye. So the real test is to kind of step back from your painting, and if it catches your eye, then it might not be, it might be something you want to change in your painting. So I like the look of what I did with my snow. How are you doing, Victoria and Josiah?
Good. We like how it's turning out.
Okay. Now we're going to work on the dots. I call them my Christmas ornaments. And I'm going to start with the lightest color, which is yellow. And so I'm still using the round with pointed tip brush. Kind of give it a clean and dip it in the yellow and just make some dots randomly. Need more paint. I started at the bottom and now I'm going to the top. So the next color I'm going to use is the red. I want to do the red. Yep. Do the red. Again, I'm going to start at the bottom and put one randomly between the yellow, working my way to the top. Like so. Cleaning my brush. And now I'm going to do a blue Christmas ornament. So I'm using the intense blue. Start at the bottom and doing it between the red and yellow. Okay. Cleaning my brush again. I think I put green ones on it, but they didn't really show up. So I'm not going to do that, but you can if you want. Or I think what is nice is to do a purple one. So you can make a purple on your palette by mixing the red here, crimson red, and some of the intense blue. And I'm mixing it on my palette. And you can see the color on the palette. But if you want to test it, you can test it on your paper towel to see the strength. And that's like a violet purple. I like that color. So we'll do those in between the blue and the red, wherever there's an empty spot and need to fill it. Like that. Okay. So is that working for you, Victoria?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. So I didn't add a tree on the top. I thought it'd be or a star on the tree. My mind was scrambled there for a moment. So I put a star off to the side here. And I started with a yellow. So you can clean your brush. And I'm still using the round with pointed tip brush. And I'm using the yellow. And I put it just right above where your group of trees are. Now this turned out a little bit strong, but that's okay. I'm going to fix it. It's not going to stay that way. I'm going to wet my brush. And pick some of the paint out. So it's not quite as bold. I'm actually going to take some of the yellow, put a little bit below the trees there. And passing the yellow along the line here, like that. And then I'm gonna, it's a little light to me. So, you know, I could add more yellow, but I don't think I want to do that. I want to add a little more contrasted. So I'm going to use my orange here. And the paint right here is still wet. So I'm going to just go ahead and add it while it is still wet. And kind of spread it like that. So there's a little bit of the orange. And I'm not adding that much to it. And that's the thing, is you can just add as much as you want. And I think what's fun is you have this piece of paper that you're creating and it's coming from you. And we're all just so special. And what comes out is really interesting and wonderful to me. And I just love sharing artwork with people to see what they come up with. And it encourages me to want to do more. Now I'm going to take some of the orange here and add a little bit in the snow with the yellow, like that. Now I'm going to step back before I do too much. And that's one of the criticism of watercolor is people say, how do you stop yourself? I did too much. And I find taking breaks when you're doing your watercolor is helpful. I mean, even just walking out of the room. So you just kind of absorb and think. And, you know, the painting process to me, what is so helpful is it gets you thinking outside of your head. You know, you're not worrying about, oh, I need to empty the dishwasher. No, I'm focusing on what I'm creating. And you're creating a beautiful scene, and I can't wait to see you guys. I feel that it's done, but if you have questions or for me, please speak up, Victoria.
We were just wondering if there's a way to turn our camera back on so we can show you what we created.
Oh,
Yeah, I can do that for you.
Josiah, you ready?
I need to come over there.
Okay, there we are. Actually, I can make it bigger.
There's mine. Let's see.
Give us a minute here.
We're being challenged here. Okay. Oh, there you go. Yeah, nice.
Ah, I like that.
Let's see, Josiah's. I'm not sure quite where my camera is on my phone, but here's how mine turned out.
Yeah,
So I'm happy with it.
good.
Nice.
That's what's important.
Yeah.
That you're happy with it. You know, I think that's what makes art special and interesting is because we all have different views. Well, thank you so much. I just love having any excuse to paint. And that's great that you're doing it with your son.
Well, this was a lot of fun. So we'd definitely be up for more if you want to in the future. This was a lot of fun.